My name is Victoria Hammond, 32 years old, and my brother's engagement celebration almost fell apart when he betrayed my trust in the most hurtful way. After years of helping him financially and emotionally, Nathan claimed the dinner had happened without me. He thought I'd accept it quietly like always, but this time he went too far. The consequences were far beyond what anyone could imagine. Before continuing my story, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Like and subscribe for more family secrets nobody tells. I stared at the antique silver locket in my hand, running my thumb over the intricate engraving that had been in our family for 4 generations. My grandmother had given it to me before she passed, with clear instructions. When Nathan finds the right woman, this belongs to her. For years, I'd kept it safe, waiting for this exact moment. The drive from Boston to Chicago had been grueling. 12 hours with only brief stops for gas and coffee, my back aching from the endless highway. But it was worth it for Nathan. Despite our complicated relationship, he was my only brother, and I wouldn't miss his engagement dinner for anything. Our parents had died when Nathan was just finishing high school. Being 6 years older, I stepped in as best I could. I put my own dreams on hold, took extra shifts at the hospital where I worked as a nurse, and made sure he finished school and got into college. It wasn't easy, but we were family. That's what you do for family. As I pulled into Nathan's neighborhood in the Chicago suburbs, exhaustion washed over me. I hadn't slept properly in days, preparing for this trip while juggling my night shifts. The navigation guided me to a modest 2-story house with neatly trimmed hedges. This was it, the home Nathan had purchased last year, partly with the money I'd loaned him for the down payment. I checked my appearance in the rearview mirror. The dark circles under my eyes were impossible to hide completely, but I'd done my best. My chestnut hair was pulled back in a loose bun, a few strands framing my face. I wanted to look nice for the dinner, to make a good impression on Jessica's family. The house looked quiet. Too quiet for what should have been a pre-dinner bustle. No cars lined the street besides Nathan's familiar blue sedan in the driveway. A knot formed in my stomach as I gathered my overnight bag and the small velvet box containing the family locket. When Nathan opened the door, he was wearing sweatpants and a faded college t-shirt. His dark hair, so similar to mine, was disheveled, and he had the shadow of a beard, not exactly engagement dinner attire. "Vic!" he exclaimed, genuine surprise in his voice. "What are you doing here?" I laughed, assuming he was joking. "Very funny. I'm only a little late. Traffic outside Indianapolis was a nightmare." His face fell, and that's when I knew something was wrong. Terribly wrong. "The engagement dinner?" I prompted. "Tonight at 7? You sent me the invitation weeks ago." Nathan's eyes widened with recognition, then quickly clouded with what looked like guilt. "Oh, that." "Yes, that," I said, the knot in my stomach tightening. "I drove 12 hours to be here." He stepped back, letting me into the house. The living room was ordinary. No decorations, no evidence of any celebration planned. No caterers setting up, no family members mingling. "Victoria, I'm so sorry," Nathan began, running a hand through his hair. "We had to reschedule. Jessica's parents could only make it yesterday." "Yesterday?" The word hung in the air between us. "Yeah, we had it yesterday. Just a small thing, really, with close family." The words hit me like a physical blow. Close family. And yet, I hadn't been there. "I tried calling you," he added quickly. "No, you didn't." I pulled out my phone, showing him the call history. Not a single call, Nathan. I must have forgotten in all the chaos. He wouldn't meet my eyes. You know how it gets with Jessica's family. They're very particular about things. I stood there, holding my overnight bag in one hand and the family heirloom in the other, trying to process what was happening. All those hours on the road, the excitement, the planning. All for nothing. "So, let me get this straight," I said, my voice remarkably steady, despite the storm brewing inside me. "You had your engagement dinner yesterday with close family, which apparently doesn't include your only sister who raised you after our parents died." Nathan flinched. "It wasn't like that, Vic. It was just Jessica's parents and her sister. and her aunt and uncle who were in town. It was last minute. Last minute enough that you couldn't pick up the phone? Send a text? Anything? He shrugged helplessly. I messed up, okay? I'm sorry. But something in his demeanor told me he wasn't entirely sorry. There was a defensiveness there, an annoyance even, as if my presence was an inconvenience. Jessica appeared then, coming down the stairs. She was as perfectly put together as always, her blonde hair cascading over her shoulders, wearing designer clothes that I knew cost more than my monthly rent. "Victoria, what a surprise," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Apparently so," I replied, forcing politeness into my voice. As I stood in their living room, still clutching my bags, the realization dawned on me that this was just the latest in a long pattern with Nathan. For years I had made excuses for him, covered for him, supported him, but standing there, excluded from one of the most important events in his life, something inside me finally broke. "I brought the family locket," I said quietly, holding up the small velvet box. "The one Grandma wanted you to have for your future wife." Jessica's eyes lit up with genuine interest for the first time. "A family heirloom?" Nathan never mentioned that. "There's a lot Nathan doesn't mention," I replied, my tone sharper than intended. I handed the box to Jessica anyway. This wasn't about her. It was about respecting Grandma's wishes. Jessica opened the box and gasped appropriately at the antique silver locket. "It's beautiful," she breathed, immediately holding it up to her neck. "Nathan, help me put it on." As Nathan fastened the locket around Jessica's neck, I felt a pang of something. Not quite regret, but a sense of finality. The last piece of Grandma was now with them, not me. "Why don't you stay for dinner?" Jessica offered, though her tone suggested it was more obligation than desire. "We were just going to order takeout, but we can make it special." "That's kind of you," I said. "But I think I'll find a hotel for tonight and head back tomorrow. I have shifts at the hospital I need to get back for." Nathan at least had the decency to look embarrassed. "Vic, come on. You can't drive all the way back tomorrow. Stay here. Your old room is always ready." My old room. The spare bedroom where I occasionally stayed when visiting Chicago. Nathan had a way of rewriting our history, making it sound like this had always been his house, his life, and I was just a visitor passing through. "I'd rather not impose," I said firmly. Later that evening, alone in my hotel room, I scrolled through years of text messages between Nathan and me. The pattern was undeniable. Requests for money, small amounts at first, then larger, excuses for not paying me back, promises to do better, and me, always giving in, always believing him when he said it was the last time. The most recent text was from just 3 weeks ago. "Vic, the card isn't working. I need to pay for Jessica's birthday dinner. It's maxed out? Can you make a payment? It's important." The card was a credit card in my name that I'd foolishly added him as an authorized user on years ago when he was struggling to build credit after some financial missteps in college. It was supposed to be for emergencies only. The $15,000 balance told a different story. I fell into a restless sleep, my dreams filled with highways that never ended and doors that locked before I could reach them. The next morning, I woke to 3 missed calls from Nathan and a text. "Where are you? Thought you were staying with us?" I replied simply, "At the Marriott downtown, checking out soon." His response came quickly. "Don't leave yet. Need to talk to you about something important." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him for coffee before heading back to Boston. We met at a small cafe near my hotel, the kind of place where Nathan would normally complain about the prices, despite spending freely on himself in other ways. He was already there when I arrived, nursing a large cappuccino, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Thanks for meeting me," he said as I sat down. "Listen, about yesterday." "It's fine," I interrupted, not wanting to rehash it. "I understand things happen." "Right," he said, looking relieved that I wasn't going to make a scene. "So, the thing is, Jess and I are planning the wedding, and venues in Chicago are really expensive." And there it was. The real reason for this meeting. Nathan, I sighed. I can't keep doing this. Doing what? He asked, a defensive edge creeping into his voice. Supporting you financially. The credit card, the loans, all of it. I'm not made of money. I work hard for what I have. I know that, he said quickly. And I appreciate everything you've done. But this is my wedding, Vic. It's a one-time thing. I looked at my brother. Really looked at him. The boy I had practically raised, who I'd sacrificed so much for. And I realized something that had been true for a long time. He didn't see me as a person with my own needs and limits. I was a resource to him, a safety net that would always be there. I'm cutting you off from the credit card, I said quietly but firmly. And I won't be lending you any more money. Nathan's face darkened, the charming facade dropping away. Are you serious right now? After everything I've been through? Everything you've been through? I repeated, disbelief coloring my words. Nathan, I've supported you for years. I put my life on hold after Mom and Dad died so you could finish school. I worked double shifts to pay for your college applications. I co-signed your first apartment lease. And I'm grateful for that, he insisted, though his tone suggested otherwise. But family helps family. That's what we do. It seems to only go one way with us, I replied. When was the last time you asked how I was doing? If I needed anything? He scoffed. You've always been fine. You've got your career, your apartment. Because I work for it, I said. And yes, I am fine. But that doesn't mean I can or should keep financing your lifestyle. Nathan leaned forward, lowering his voice. Look, Jessica's family has expectations. Her dad is a partner at his firm. Her sister had a wedding at the Four Seasons. I can't look like I can't provide. Then provide, I said simply. Get a better job. Budget. Live within your means. That's what adults do. His expression hardened. So that's it? After all these years, you're just cutting me off when I need you most? This isn't what need looks like, Nathan. This is want. And yes, I'm setting a boundary. The credit card gets paid off and canceled. No more loans. Nathan stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his coffee. Fine. I thought I could count on you, but I guess I was wrong. Jessica's parents will probably help anyway. They actually care about her happiness. The barb was designed to hurt, and it did. But not in the way Nathan intended. Instead of making me feel guilty, it only confirmed I was making the right decision. I hope they do help, I said honestly. And I hope you have a beautiful wedding. I'll be there to support you, emotionally. But my bank account is closed. I watched him storm out of the cafe, knowing this wouldn't be the end of it. Nathan had never taken no for an answer. At least not from me. The drive back to Boston felt different from the journey to Chicago. There was a heaviness in my chest, but also a strange lightness, as if I'd put down a burden I'd been carrying for too long. I had just crossed the Ohio border when my phone rang. Jessica's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated before answering, putting her on speaker as I continued driving. Victoria, she began, her voice tightly controlled. I just want to understand what happened. Nathan came home very upset. I'm sure he did, I replied evenly. I told him I'm not giving him any more money. It's not about giving him money, Jessica said, clearly choosing her words carefully. It's about supporting your brother during an important time in his life. I've supported Nathan financially for years, Jessica. Did he tell you about the credit card in my name that he's maxed out? Or the loans he's never repaid? Or the down payment for your house? Silence on the other end. Then, he said you offered to help with those things, that you wanted to. I did want to help initially, and then it became expected, demanded even. There's a difference. Jessica's tone changed, becoming conciliatory. Victoria, I understand you might feel underappreciated. And the dinner mix-up was unfortunate. But surely we can work something out. Nathan mentioned you have savings. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. My savings are not up for discussion. They're for my future, my eventual retirement, my security. Family is security, Jessica countered. And really, what are you saving for? You don't have children, you're not married. Nathan and I will be starting a family soon. The casual cruelty of her words, the implication that my life was somehow less valuable or important because I was single and childless, left me momentarily speechless. "Jessica," I finally said, "I wish you and Nathan all the happiness in the world. But my financial relationship with my brother is over. That's non-negotiable." "I see," she said coldly. "Well, I hope you reconsider before the wedding. It would be a shame if family conflicts overshadowed our special day." After hanging up, I pulled over at the next rest stop, my hands shaking too much to drive safely. The conversation had been illuminating in ways Jessica probably hadn't intended. She and Nathan were perfect for each other, both believing they were entitled to what others had worked for. As I sat in my car, watching families and travelers come and go from the rest area, I made a decision. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about respect, about being valued as more than a checkbook. And if Nathan and Jessica couldn't see that, maybe it was time to create some serious distance. That evening, in a motel off the highway, I did something I'd been putting off for too long. I called the credit card company and reported the card as compromised. I requested a new card be issued only to me, and I removed Nathan as an authorized user. It was a small step, but a significant one. For the next week, my phone buzzed constantly with texts and calls from Nathan. I let most go to voicemail, needing time to process everything. The messages started with anger. "I can't believe you canceled the card without telling me." Then moved to guilt. "After everything we've been through, you're abandoning me." And finally to desperate negotiation. "Just help with the venue deposit, and I swear that's it." I listened to each voicemail, read each text, but didn't respond. Not yet. I needed to be clear and firm when I did, and emotional reactions wouldn't help either of us. At work, I threw myself into my nursing shifts at Boston General, finding comfort in the straightforward nature of my job. As an ER nurse, I dealt with immediate problems that had clear solutions: set the broken bone, stitch the wound, administer the medication. If only family relationships could be healed with such precise protocols. "You seem distracted," my colleague Diane commented during our break. At 55, she was something of a mentor to me, having been at the hospital for over 20 years. "Family stuff," I said vaguely, stirring my coffee. Diane nodded knowingly. "The hardest patients are the ones we're related to." I smiled weakly at her nurse humor, but she saw right through it. "Want to talk about it?" Sometimes an outside perspective helps. So I told her everything. About Nathan, the engagement dinner debacle, the years of financial support, and my decision to finally cut him off. "Sounds like you've been his mother, not his sister," Diane observed when I finished. "And no parent should be an ATM for their adult child." "I was just trying to help him," I said defensively. "Were you helping him, though?" she asked gently. "Or were you enabling him to avoid growing up?" Her words stayed with me through my shift and into the evening. Had I really been helping Nathan all these years? Or had my assistance actually prevented him from developing the resilience and responsibility he needed? When I got home that night, I finally called Nathan back. "It's about time," he answered, irritation evident in his voice. "I've been trying to reach you for days." "I needed some space to think," I said calmly. "And I've made some decisions." "About the wedding money?" he asked hopefully. "About our relationship," I corrected. "Nathan, I love you. You're my brother. But I've been enabling patterns that aren't healthy for either of us." "What are you talking about?" "I've been acting as your financial safety net for so long that it's become expected. It's distorted our relationship, and it needs to stop." He was quiet for a moment. "So, this is really about the credit card? You're this upset over a few $1,000s?" "It's $15,000, I corrected. "And no, it's not just about the money. It's about respect. It's about valuing me as your sister, not just as a resource. It's about not even calling to tell me that the engagement dinner I drove 12 hours for had been rescheduled." "I said I was sorry about that," Nathan muttered. "Being sorry isn't enough anymore," I said. "I need to see change." "Real change? What does that even mean?" "It means you take responsibility for your own finances. It means you acknowledge how your actions affect others. It means you treat me like a person who matters, not just someone you call when you need money. Nathan's voice hardened. So what? You're putting conditions on being my sister now? No. I'm putting conditions on the kind of relationship we have. I'll always be your sister, but I won't continue to be taken advantage of. The conversation deteriorated from there. Nathan accused me of being selfish, of abandoning him when he needed me most. I remained as calm as possible, repeating my boundaries clearly. By the time we hung up, it was clear we were at an impasse. Nathan wasn't willing to acknowledge the problem, let alone work on it. That night, I made a spreadsheet of all the money I had given or loaned Nathan over the years. The total made me feel physically ill. Just over $68,000 since he turned 18. Money that could have gone toward a house of my own instead of renting, or toward the master's degree I'd always wanted to pursue, or simply into retirement savings. It wasn't just about the money, I reminded myself. It was about the pattern of behavior, the lack of respect, the one-sided nature of our relationship. But seeing the number in black and white made the imbalance impossible to ignore. The next morning, I woke to an email from Jessica. The subject line read, "Wedding Guest List Update." Inside was a formal-looking notice. Due to venue constraints and budget considerations, we have had to make difficult decisions regarding our guest list. We hope you understand. There was no direct statement that I was no longer invited, but the implication was clear. This was their retaliation, excluding me from the wedding because I refused to help pay for it. Instead of the hurt they probably expected me to feel, I experienced something unexpected. Relief. Relief that I wouldn't have to sit through a ceremony and reception, pretending everything was fine between us. Relief that I wouldn't have to watch Nathan and Jessica celebrate their love with the money I had sacrificed to provide. I closed the email without responding and went about my day, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. A month passed with minimal contact from Nathan. Occasionally, he would send a text that seemed calculated to make me feel guilty, mentions of wedding planning stress or financial pressure. But I maintained my boundaries, responding with emotional support, but no offers of money. On a rainy Saturday, I was sorting through old photos when I came across one of Nathan and me at his high school graduation. His arm was slung around my shoulders, both of us smiling widely at the camera. I was 24 then, already working full-time as a nurse while trying to support us both. Nathan was 18, full of potential and promises about the future. I remembered how proud I'd felt that day. Proud of him for graduating, despite the trauma of losing our parents. Proud of myself for stepping up and keeping our small family together. Where had that pride gone? When had our relationship shifted from mutual support to one-sided giving? The doorbell rang, startling me from my thoughts. Through the peephole, I saw a familiar face. Lisa, Nathan's ex-girlfriend from college. They had dated for nearly 3 years before breaking up, and I had always liked her. She was kind, hardworking, and seemed to genuinely care about Nathan. "Lisa?" I said, opening the door in surprise. "What are you doing in Boston?" She smiled hesitantly. "I moved here 6 months ago for work. I've been meaning to reach out, but..." She trailed off. "I hope it's okay that I stopped by. I got your address from mutual friends." I invited her in, curious about the timing of her visit. We settled in my living room with tea, making small talk about her job as a graphic designer and my work at the hospital. Finally, Lisa got to the point. "I heard about Nathan's engagement," she said, "and some mutual friends mentioned there was tension between you two." I sighed. "That's putting it mildly." "I'm not surprised," Lisa said, looking down at her tea. "Nathan has always had a way of taking advantage of people who care about him." "You experienced that too?" I asked, although I already knew the answer. Lisa nodded. "That's actually why we broke up. He borrowed money from me constantly, for rent, for car repairs, even though he was always buying new clothes and going out with friends. When I finally confronted him about it, he made me feel like I was being petty and unsupportive." Her story was so familiar it made my chest ache. "Did he ever pay you back?" "Not a cent," she said with a sad smile. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst was realizing that he saw me as a resource, not a partner. When I stopped being useful financially, he lost interest. We talked for hours, sharing stories about Nathan. Not to be malicious, but to understand. Lisa's perspective helped me see that the patterns I'd observed weren't new. They predated our parents' deaths, and weren't simply a response to trauma, as I'd always told myself. "Have you met Jessica?" I asked eventually. Lisa shook her head. "No, but I've heard about her. Comes from money, right?" "Her family is well off," I confirmed, which makes it even stranger that Nathan and she are so focused on getting financial help for the wedding. Lisa looked thoughtful. "Or maybe it makes perfect sense. If Jessica's used to a certain lifestyle but her parents aren't fully funding it, Nathan needs to find the money somewhere. And you've always been his go-to." The observation was uncomfortably accurate. Nathan had always known exactly which buttons to push to get what he wanted from me. The shared grief over our parents, the responsibility I felt as his older sister, the memories of promises I'd made to our mother about taking care of him. "I feel guilty," I admitted, "like I'm abandoning him." "You're not abandoning him," Lisa said firmly. "You're asking him to be an adult. There's a difference." After Lisa left, I felt a strange sense of validation. It wasn't just me who had experienced Nathan's manipulative behavior. It wasn't just my perception that was flawed. That evening, I received a text from an unknown number. It was Jessica's sister, Amelia. "Victoria, I think we should talk. There are things about Nathan and Jessica you should know." I stared at the message, uncertainty washing over me. Did I want to know more? Would it change anything? After some consideration, I replied with my availability for a phone call the next day. Amelia called precisely at the agreed time. After brief introductions, she got straight to the point. "Jessica and Nathan have been telling her parents that you refused to give them the family heirloom for the wedding. They're using it to paint you as vindictive and unreasonable." I was stunned. "But I gave Jessica the locket the day I arrived in Chicago. She was wearing it when I left." "I know," Amelia said. "I saw it. That's partly why I'm calling. The stories they're telling don't add up." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, suspicious of her motives. "Because I don't like lies," she said simply. "And because Jessica has pulled similar manipulations with our family. She's always been the perfect daughter to our parents' faces, while making sure I look like the unreliable one. Now she's doing the same with you and Nathan." The revelation wasn't entirely surprising, but it was disturbing nonetheless. Nathan and Jessica weren't just asking for money. They were actively trying to damage my reputation within the family to justify their demands. "There's more," Amelia continued. "They've been telling everyone the wedding venue costs twice what it actually does. I think they're planning to pocket the difference from whatever contributions they collect." The information should have made me angry, but instead, I felt a profound sadness. Nathan had moved beyond taking advantage of me to actively trying to con me. How had we come to this? "Thank you for telling me," I said to Amelia. "I appreciate your honesty. Just be careful with them," she warned before hanging up. "They're good at making others feel like they're the problem." The next morning, I woke to another series of texts from Nathan. "Jessica's parents won't help with the venue after all. We're going to lose our date if we don't put down the deposit by Friday. Vic, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. This is my wedding. Don't you want me to be happy? Just $5,000. That's all we need. I promise I'll pay you back." I read the messages with new clarity, seeing the manipulation that had always been there but that I'd chosen to ignore. The artificial deadline, the appeal to my desire for his happiness, the promise of repayment that history had proven empty. Instead of responding immediately, I did something I'd been considering for weeks. I contacted a financial advisor to discuss my options for dealing with the debt Nathan had accumulated on my credit card and to create a plan for rebuilding my savings. Jennifer, the advisor, reviewed my financial situation with professional detachment. "The credit card debt is in your name," she confirmed. "So legally, you're responsible for it. But you've removed him as an authorized user, which is good. Should I try to get Nathan to agree to a repayment plan for what he's already spent?" I asked. Jennifer looked skeptical. "Based on what you've told me about his history, I wouldn't count on it." My advice? Consider the money gone. Pay off the card as quickly as you can to stop the interest accumulation and focus on moving forward. It was harsh but realistic advice. I left her office with a concrete plan. I would use a portion of my savings to pay off the credit card, then focus on rebuilding those savings over the next 2 years. I would also look into the master's degree program I'd been postponing. It would increase my earning potential significantly. That evening, I finally responded to Nathan's texts with a simple message. I won't be providing any money for the wedding. I wish you all the happiness in the world, but my financial support has ended. His reply came almost instantly. Fine, then don't bother coming to the wedding. You're not welcome anymore. The words stung, but not as much as they would have even a month ago. I was beginning to understand that Nathan's love had always been conditional, based on what I could provide for him, not on who I was. I threw myself into my new plan over the next few weeks. I picked up extra shifts at the hospital, started the application process for the master's program, and even joined a support group for people dealing with difficult family dynamics. In the support group, I met others with similar stories. A woman whose adult son only contacted her when he needed childcare. A man whose sister had stolen his identity to open credit cards. An elderly couple whose children visited only when they needed money. The hardest part, said Gail, the group facilitator, is accepting that you can't change the other person. You can only change how you respond to them. Those words resonated deeply with me. For years, I'd been trying to fix Nathan, to help him become more responsible, more considerate. But all my efforts had only reinforced the dysfunctional patterns between us. 3 months after the engagement dinner debacle, I received a formal wedding invitation in the mail. I was surprised, given Nathan's previous text uninviting me, but the reason became clear when I opened the accompanying note. Victoria, we've reconsidered and would love you to be part of our special day. Jessica's parents have generously offered to help with the venue, but we're still short on funds for the honeymoon. Any contribution would be deeply appreciated. Love, Nathan. So that was it. Not a genuine desire to reconcile, but another attempt to extract money from me. The realization didn't hurt as much as it once would have. Instead, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I declined the invitation with a polite note, wishing them well but making no mention of financial contributions. Then I blocked both Nathan's and Jessica's numbers on my phone. It was a temporary measure. I wasn't cutting them off permanently, just creating space for myself to heal and strengthen my resolve. Lisa called a few days later, having heard about the wedding invitation from mutual friends. "Are you okay?" she asked, genuine concern in her voice. "I am, actually," I said, surprising myself with how true it was. "I think I've finally accepted that I can't have the relationship I want with Nathan unless he changes, and I can't make him change." "That's a hard lesson," Lisa said. "I'm still working on accepting it myself." We made plans to meet for dinner that weekend, a friendship forming from the shared experience of loving and letting go of Nathan. The dinner with Lisa was refreshing. We talked about our jobs, our hobbies, our hopes for the future. Nathan's name came up only briefly, and without the weight of pain it once carried. "I'm applying for a master's program," I told her over dessert, "in nursing administration. It's something I've wanted to do for years but kept putting off." "Because of Nathan?" Lisa asked. I nodded. "Partly financial reasons, partly because I was always dealing with some crisis of his. But now it's your turn," Lisa finished for me, raising her glass in a toast. "To putting yourself first." "To putting myself first," I echoed, feeling for the first time in years that it wasn't selfish to do so. That night, I dreamed of my parents. Not as they were at the end, sick and worried, but as they had been when I was a child. Strong, loving, full of hope for both their children. In the dream, my mother hugged me and whispered, "You did your best. Now live your life." I woke with tears on my cheeks, but a lightness in my heart. Maybe it was just my subconscious giving me permission to move forward, but it felt like something more. A true release from the promises and obligations that had bound me for so long. Summer turned to fall, and with the changing leaves came changes in my life as well. I was accepted into the master's program, with classes scheduled to begin in January. My financial situation was slowly improving as I stuck to the plan Jennifer had outlined. And I had built a small but supportive circle of friends, including Lisa and several people from the support group. Nathan's wedding day came and went. I saw photos on social media posted by mutual acquaintances. Nathan handsome in his tuxedo, Jessica radiant in a designer gown that probably cost more than my car. They looked happy, and despite everything, I hoped they were. I sent a small gift, a set of quality kitchen knives, practical rather than sentimental, with a simple card wishing them happiness. It was acknowledged with a generic thank you note that could have been sent to any guest. Thanksgiving approached, and for the first time since our parents died, I made no plans to travel to Chicago. Instead, I accepted an invitation from Diane, my mentor at the hospital, to join her family's celebration. "You can't be alone on Thanksgiving," she insisted when I initially hesitated. "And my kids always bring half a dozen strays anyway. One more won't make a difference." The day before Thanksgiving, I received an unexpected call from an unknown number. When I answered, a gruff male voice said, "Is this Victoria Hammond?" "Yes, it is. Who's calling?" "This is Robert Thompson, Jessica's father. We need to talk about Nathan." My stomach tightened with immediate anxiety. "Is he okay?" "Physically, yes," Robert said. "Otherwise, not so much. Has he contacted you recently?" "No," I said. "We haven't spoken since before the wedding." Robert sighed heavily. "Nathan and Jessica separated 2 weeks ago. She's moved back home with us." The news stunned me. "I'm sorry to hear that. What happened?" "Your brother has a gambling problem, Ms. Hammond. A serious one. Jessica discovered he'd taken out loans in her name to cover his debts. And there are other issues: lying, manipulative behavior, financial irresponsibility." As Robert continued describing Nathan's behavior, I felt a complex mix of emotions: vindication that others were finally seeing what I had experienced for years, guilt that I hadn't done more to address these problems earlier, and genuine concern for my brother, who was clearly in trouble. "I suspected there were financial issues," I said carefully, "but I didn't know about the gambling. According to Jessica, it's been going on for years," Robert said. "She found evidence of online poker accounts, sports betting, casino visits, all hidden, of course. When she confronted him, he broke down and admitted he's been struggling with it since college." College. The time when Nathan's financial requests had first become regular and increasingly urgent. How had I missed the signs? Or had I simply chosen not to see them? "Mr. Thompson," I said, "I'm genuinely sorry about what Jessica is going through, but I'm not sure why you're calling me." "2 reasons," he replied bluntly. "First, to warn you. Nathan has been contacting Jessica's friends and family, trying to get money from them by making up emergencies. I wanted to make sure you were aware, in case he tries the same with you." "And the second reason?" "Jessica mentioned you'd tried to set boundaries with Nathan before the wedding. That you saw problems no one else seemed willing to acknowledge. He paused, and I could hear the reluctance in his voice. "I owe you an apology. We believed Nathan when he painted you as controlling and unreasonable. It's clear now that you were simply trying to protect yourself from what we're experiencing firsthand." The acknowledgement was unexpected and, in its way, healing. For months, I'd carried the weight of wondering if I'd been too harsh, too selfish, too unwilling to help my only brother. To hear from Jessica's father, who had every reason to side with his daughter and son-in-law, that my actions had been justified was profoundly validating. "Thank you for telling me," I said. "And for the warning. I hope Jessica is okay." "She will be," Robert said with fatherly certainty. "She's strong and she has support. I'm more concerned about your brother, to be honest. He needs help, Ms. Hammond. Professional help." After we hung up, I sat in my apartment, processing the conversation. Nathan had a gambling addiction. It explained so much: the constant need for money, the defensiveness when questioned about his spending, the escalating amounts over the years. And I had enabled it, believing I was helping him through temporary struggles rather than funding a destructive habit. I felt a responsibility to reach out to Nathan, but also fear about being drawn back into his chaos. After careful consideration, I composed an email. Nathan, I heard about your separation from Jessica. I'm sorry you're going through this difficult time. I want you to know that I care about you and I'm concerned. If you're dealing with a gambling problem, there are resources that can help. I'd be willing to help you find treatment options, though I can't and won't provide financial support. Please consider reaching out to a professional. You don't have to face this alone. Love, Victoria. I didn't expect a response, and for several days there wasn't one. I went to Diane's Thanksgiving dinner, surrounded by her boisterous family and other strays. A new nurse who couldn't afford to fly home to California. A recently divorced neighbor. An elderly patient who had nowhere else to go. The warmth and genuine connection I felt there reinforced something I'd been slowly learning. Family wasn't just about blood. It was about who showed up, who respected you, who wanted the best for you without conditions. The day after Thanksgiving, Nathan finally replied to my email. His response was brief, but hit me like a physical blow. I don't have a gambling problem. Jessica is lying to cover up her own issues. I don't need your help or your judgment. Some sister you turned out to be. I showed the email to my support group at our next meeting, seeking guidance on how to respond, or whether to respond at all. Classic denial, said Gail, the facilitator. And the attack at the end is deflection, making you the problem so he doesn't have to look at himself. Should I try again? I asked. Be more direct about the evidence? An older man named Frank, who had shared his own struggles with addiction in previous meetings, shook his head. You can't reason someone into admitting they have a problem. They have to hit their own bottom. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is step back and let that happen. It feels like abandonment, I admitted. It's not, Frank assured me. You've offered help with the actual problem, finding treatment. You've kept the door open. That's all you can do until he's ready to walk through it. I didn't respond to Nathan's email. Instead, I focused on preparing for my upcoming classes, enjoying the holiday season with my new friends, and continuing my healing process through therapy and the support group. December brought unexpected news, a promotion at work to charge nurse with a significant salary increase. It was validation of my hard work and dedication, and it came with better hours that would accommodate my graduate classes. For the first time in years, I felt like my career was advancing because I was focusing on my own goals rather than constantly managing Nathan's crises. A week before Christmas, my doorbell rang. When I opened it, I found Nathan standing there, looking thinner and more haggard than I'd ever seen him. His eyes were bloodshot, his clothes rumpled. "Can I come in?" he asked, his voice hoarse. I hesitated, every instinct warning me to protect myself, but the sight of my brother in such obvious distress pulled at me. "For a few minutes," I said, stepping aside. Nathan entered my apartment, looking around as if seeing it for the first time, though he'd visited many times before. He declined my offer of coffee or water, perching uncomfortably on the edge of my couch. "Jessica filed for divorce," he said without preamble. "I'm sorry," I replied, and I meant it. "Yeah, well," he shrugged, trying for nonchalance but achieving only a kind of pained stiffness. "It's probably for the best." We sat in awkward silence for a moment before he continued. "I lost my job, and the house is in foreclosure. I've been staying with a friend, but that's complicated." I could see where this was heading, and I braced myself. "Nathan, I know what you're going to say," he interrupted. "No money, I get it. That's not why I'm here." "Then why are you here?" I asked, unable to keep the skepticism from my voice. He looked down at his hands, which I now noticed were trembling slightly. "You were right, about the gambling. It started in college, just poker games with friends, then online, then sports betting. I told myself I could stop any time, that I was just having fun." The admission seemed to physically pain him, each word dragged out reluctantly. "After Mom and Dad died, it got worse. It was an escape, I guess. And then it wasn't. It was a need. A compulsion. Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my throat tight with emotion. "Shame," At first, he said quietly. Then fear that you'd cut me off, which I couldn't handle because I was already in too deep. And then it just became easier to lie, to manipulate. I got good at it. He looked up at me, his eyes red-rimmed. Too good. It was the first genuine conversation we'd had in years, maybe ever. No demands, no excuses, just raw truth. I'm going to a treatment center, Nathan continued. 30-day inpatient program for gambling addiction. My insurance will cover most of it, but... He trailed off. But, I prompted, tensing again. But I need someone to drive me there tomorrow. It's in New Hampshire, and maybe... Check on me sometimes, if you want to. It wasn't the request for money I'd expected. It was something much harder to give. Trust, after so many betrayals. Time, when he'd wasted so much of mine. Emotional support, when he'd drained me dry so many times before. I agreed to drive Nathan to the treatment center, but I set clear boundaries. This wasn't a return to our old patterns. This was me supporting his recovery while maintaining my own well-being. The drive to New Hampshire the next day was mostly silent. Nathan seemed lost in thought, occasionally pointing out landmarks or commenting on the weather, safe topics that didn't require either of us to venture into emotional territory. But as we approached the treatment center, a converted country estate set back from the main road, he turned to me. I didn't just come to you for a ride, he admitted. I could have taken a bus or asked someone else. I came because I owe you an apology. A real one. I kept my eyes on the road, not trusting myself to look at him. Okay. I've been awful to you, Vic, for years. Taking and taking, never giving back. Manipulating you, lying to you. Making you feel guilty when you tried to set boundaries. His voice cracked. And the engagement dinner, that was deliberate. Jessica's parents offered to include you, but I told them you were busy. I was punishing you for questioning me about the credit card. The confirmation of what I'd suspected hurt, but less than it would have months ago. I had already grieved the relationship I thought we had already accepted the reality of who Nathan was. This confession was less a revelation than a validation. Why are you telling me this now? I asked as I pulled into the center's parking lot. Because I need to make amends, he said simply. That's part of recovery. And because you deserve to hear it. To know it wasn't in your head. That I really did those things, and they were wrong. I parked the car and finally turned to look at him. The brother I'd practically raised. The last remaining member of my immediate family. Despite everything, I still loved him. But it was a different kind of love now. Clearer-eyed, with boundaries. I forgive you, I said after a moment. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or going back to how things were. It means I'm letting go of the anger, but I'm still protecting myself. Nathan nodded, understanding in his eyes. That's fair. More than fair, actually. We walked together to the reception area, where Nathan checked in. Before he left with a staff member to begin the intake process, he turned to me one last time. I know I have to earn your trust back, he said. And it might take years. It might never happen completely. But I'm going to try, Vic. Not because I need something from you, but because you deserve a brother who's actually there for you, the way you've always been there for me. I hugged him briefly, whispering, "Good luck," before stepping back. As I watched him walk away, I felt a complex mix of hope and caution. Recovery wasn't linear, I knew from my support group. There would be setbacks, possibly relapses. Nathan might emerge from treatment committed to change, only to fall back into old patterns when faced with stress or temptation. But for the first time, he was acknowledging the problem and seeking help. It was a beginning, however tentative. The drive back to Boston gave me time to reflect on the journey of the past 6 months. From the painful revelation at the engagement dinner to setting firm boundaries, from grief over the lost relationship I thought I had with my brother, to acceptance of the reality, from enabling to supporting in healthier ways. When I arrived home, I found an email from the university confirming my class schedule for the upcoming semester. A reminder that my life was moving forward, regardless of what happened with Nathan. I had put myself first, and good things were happening as a result. Over the next few weeks, I received occasional updates from Nathan's counselor at the treatment center, with my brother's permission. He was participating actively in the program, they said, engaged in both individual and group therapy. Coming to terms with the extent of his addiction and its impact on his relationships. I sent Nathan a card for Christmas but didn't visit. It was too soon, the boundaries too freshly established. I needed to maintain the distance I'd created, for both our sakes. New Year's Eve arrived, and with it, invitations to several celebrations. I chose to go to a small gathering at Lisa's apartment, where I'd be among friends who knew my story and respected my journey. As midnight approached, Lisa pulled me aside. "I have something for you," she said, handing me a small gift bag. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a single charm, a compass. "For finding your way," Lisa explained. Or rather, for recognizing that you already knew which way to go and having the courage to follow it. The sentiment brought tears to my eyes. It encapsulated perfectly what the past year had taught me. That sometimes the hardest path is the right one. That setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary. That family isn't just who you're born to, but who treats you with love and respect. As the countdown to midnight began, I found myself thinking of Nathan. I hoped he was finding his way too, learning the same difficult lessons I had. Not for my sake, but for his own. The clock struck 12, and cheers erupted around me. Lisa hugged me, and I hugged her back, grateful for this new friend who had emerged from the wreckage of an old relationship. "Happy New Year," she said. "Here's to new beginnings." "And to knowing our own worth," I added. 3 days later, I stood in front of my classroom for the first day of graduate school. At 32, I was older than many of my classmates, having delayed this dream for years while prioritizing others' needs. But I wasn't too late. That was the beautiful realization. It wasn't too late to change the patterns, to pursue my goals, to build the life I wanted. My phone buzzed with a text as I was leaving class. It was from Nathan, his first direct communication since entering treatment. 30 days clean today, 1 day at a time. Thank you for the drive and for not giving up on me entirely. I know I have a long way to go. I texted back a simple, "Proud of you. Keep going." And I meant it. I was proud of him, but I was also proud of myself. For driving 12 hours to that engagement dinner all those months ago? Yes. But more importantly, for the journey I'd taken since then, for finally choosing myself.